So I've been able to make a lot of really good progress on Project Cream Puff lately. I've been able to get the JSP oil pan installed. I've got the Panic Made ITBs on. I've got most of the wiring routed for the engine, but now I think it's time to actually work on the chassis wiring. This is something I've been putting off for a while because it actually needs a lot of repair, and I had to decide what harness I was going to run with the car because I've got Zenki and Kuki harnesses, and both of them need some work, and it took me a while to decide what I was going to do. I've already got the dash pulled out of the car, so now I can get into actually repairing the wiring. I'm gonna have to pull this whole harness out, but this is like the main problem here. This wiring harness came out of a car that had a beam swap in it, and I also put the Altezza cluster in. And so they kind of chopped some of the wiring here. I'm gonna have to repair this, but I actually have to pull the whole harness out and chop it back here and repair this and splice it into a different harness. That way I can have a good front chassis harness and dash harness. This also gives me an opportunity to install some pedals because I don't have the brake or clutch pedal installed. They're sitting right here in my hands. So once we get the harness out, I'll have more room to do things like this. Okay, that's the harness out of the car. This is the spare harness that I do have. So this, all the stuff for the instrument cluster, I'd have to swap that over because that goes, this stuff right here. So instrument cluster's chopped. This is all the radio stuff. Well, that's all chopped out. Same with this, which is, I want to say the wiper switch. There's a lot of stuff to swap over. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do. I guess I'm going to take a break for a minute and see if I can come up with a game plan on this, because honestly this is a lot of work and I just don't know if it's worth it, or try and buy a new one, or try and source another harness that isn't cut. I decided to sleep on the wiring last night. Still haven't quite made a decision of what I'm going to do with it, but in the meantime I think we can go ahead and at least get the pedals situated in here. So I kind of have them loosely fit up in there, but I can't actually bolt them down until I pull the booster on the master cylinder out, the clutch master, and then I actually have a different clutch master to go in there because it's got the slave and all that stuff, and a poorly made hard line. I'll have to redo that later, but at least get those in here. And I have a different brake booster that's in better condition with the master as well. So let's get to it. Ran into another problem with the brakes and stuff. So I made new hard lines for the rear axle, and I was hoping to avoid making lines up here, but as you can see, they're all just kind of, I don't know, all in pretty rough condition. I tried to tighten this down, but that nut is seized to the line, so we've just got a bunch of lines that are mangled. I guess I'm gonna have to make some new ones. And then I realized I was also missing a line that's supposed to come over that connects the rear brakes to over here, and that's not in here anywhere either. So I've got some work to do for the brake lines. I guess I'll have to make some new ones. But I don't quite have enough of that to make new hard lines yet. So I guess I'll have to buy some more and then get to bending some brake lines. Okay. I slept on it for actually a long time to try and decide what I'm going to do with the wiring. I know what I'm going to do now. This is my mess of wiring harnesses that I have to fix because I want the car to run. So I am going to go ahead and start swapping stuff over. I broke out my fancy little soldering iron here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to chop the pigtails I need off of the one harness and put them on the other. And get a good wiring harness. So I'm not going to make you sit here and watch me as I solder everything together. So we're just going to go ahead and... Okay, I wanted to stop in the middle here to show you some of the work I got. So we got 10 total connectors. And this one, so I had to do some repairs. These were cut really short. So what I ended up having to do for the instrument cluster is actually to de-pin and then strip back what little bit of shielding I could and solder to it, and that ended up being like this. So these pins for the instrument cluster, I haven't been able to find a replacement for them because it's such a weird connector. But because I'm using a digital cluster, this shouldn't matter so much because normally like these kind of like fold over kind of like right by the connector, which is kind of a problem with having solders right there. But because I'm using the digital cluster like jumper harness, it shouldn't be an issue, I don't think. Anyway, I just wanted to show that. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 connectors that now are gonna get put on that harness. So let's jump ahead to that. Done. Okay. All this is done. I got the cluster connector in here. I got the headlight and illumination. I got the wiper switch and illumination. I also had to swap over an AC connector. So like, I think this harness was actually from a car that had like automatic AC or something, because it had like this connector, which I haven't seen before, and I had to put this one on. So I just kind of left that there in case I want to swap back at some point. And then another thing I had to do, I was missing the cigarette lighter 12 volt plug. And the one from the car, from the other harness I pulled off, was pretty trash. So I just took the one from the clock, because it's the same connector, and then spliced that on, and hopefully I match up the wires right. Now the one that I just really don't... This is the one for the turn signal, and it was really thick, so hopefully it's not too bad. I guess that's the downside of doing soldering, is you end up with like a lot thicker wiring. But it's all done. Ready to put it in the car, I think. And then I can power things up, and maybe I'll see what the digital cluster is supposed to look like. And that gets me really excited because I haven't ever seen one lit before. There is smoke. And these are hot. But it looks like it might be coming from behind the dash somewhere. I don't know. Ouch, that's toasty. After I finished filming and fixing the wiring harness, I realized that I kind of overlooked some details. And I also got a little ahead of myself. So I haven't really talked about the digital cluster. So let's go look at that now. This is by far one of my absolute favorite AE86 parts. This is a JDM digital cluster, and I don't really know why I love these. I think it's just because it's just like so 80s. Like, I don't know how to describe it other than that. It's just got such a cool aesthetic, and I love the way they look when they're lit up. Now, these are JDM only, so JDM market, so it's not in miles per hour, although there's a way to modify it for miles per hour. And then this one actually had the odometer rolled back, so that's, I guess, kind of neat. And then you got your water temp over here, and your fuel gauge here, and then this is your RPM, this is your tach. That's like my favorite thing. I love it. So after I got the wiring done, well, after I finished fixing that dash harness, well, what I mean by I got ahead of myself is, well, it started raining and the weather here's been kind of poor, so I've been kind of like working on the car at night. It hasn't really been conducive to filming, so I just wanted to make progress with the car. I didn't really film it, but I did get the wiring harness in. I also got the front lighting harness, the body harness, and I got both of those in. And I did some refreshing on the HVAC cases. So I put the HVACs, the AC and heating boxes in the car, and I did everything like that. Put the interior back together. But remember when I said at the very beginning of the video that I had to decide what wiring harnesses I wanted to use, and the ones that I had? So I've got Zenki and Kuki. I was wrong. And the thing is when you mix match a Kuki like dash harness with a Zenki front lighting harness, or vice versa, is you can catch your car on fire. Luckily, that didn't happen for me. Well, here's the one thing that I found. I actually, for a while, was going through trying to find the differences. The differences between them, if you use okay, I gotta remember this. If you use a Kuki, late model, front lighting harness, one of the pins that goes to one of the wires that goes to the driver's side kick panel fuse box, it puts power to a pin that with the Zenki under dash harness is normally used for headlights. And the headlight stuff is all ground controlled, right? So that was for that, it goes to the switch. So what you're doing is you're running battery power to a ground, and then things get melty. So I damaged some of the wiring at the turn signal switch, because it runs through the turn signal switch. I don't know if the turn signal switch is bad. I have a spare sitting there that I can put on it if I need to. Luckily, I don't think anything else was damaged, so now I'm kind of in that point of I gotta decide what I'm gonna do. I don't know what harness I'm gonna order. I'm really annoyed because I did all that work in the dash harness. I wouldn't have to buy a harness, but I think I actually need to buy a harness now. So my front lighting harness is perfect. So I'm thinking I might just replace the dash harness that I just spent all of that time reworking, including getting it plug and play for the link ECU with the panic wire stuff. So I don't really know what I'm gonna do yet. But I did get the digital dash to power up, which is super exciting because it's the first time I've ever seen one lit up. So I got the digital dash lit up. I took a look at it. And that's when I noticed the smoke. Unplugged some things so then it wasn't shorting the ground anymore, so I could see what the digital dash looked like without melting things. And that was super cool. Kind of a crappy update. I was really hoping to have the car like all powered up, and we're not there yet. So maybe next time I'll actually have a proper wiring harness. We'll see. Thanks for watching. See you later.